Its obsidian hull absorbed the light from Sol, appearing as a massive void against the starscape. The tension on the bridge was palpable, humanity's first alien contact, and it was clearly military. "Analysis," Riker commanded, his weathered face betraying no emotion. Lieutenant Alawan Mercer, head of Xeno Intelligence, stepped forward. "The vessel appears to be a dreadnought class, sir. Energy readings suggest weapons capabilities far beyond our own. They're broadcasting some kind of signal, likely an attempt at communication." "Let's hear it," Riker ordered. The bridge speakers crackled with a harsh, mechanical voice. "Inhabitants of Sol 3, you have been identified as a pre-ascension species with dangerous cognitive patterns. The Vrakari consensus has determined your species presents an unacceptable risk factor for galactic stability. Surrender your population centers immediately or face planetary pacification." Riker's jaw tightened. Pacification. That's a nice way of saying extermination. Defense Secretary Isolde Voss's hologram appeared beside him. "Admiral, we're tracking 5 more vessels entering the system. The President has authorized Protocol Thermopylae." "They have no idea what they're walking into," Riker muttered. Fleet Commander Ezel Thorson, sitting at Tactical, looked up. "Sir, their technology is centuries beyond ours. Our most advanced ships would be like stone spears against fusion cannons." "True," Riker acknowledged. "But they've made a fundamental mistake, Commander. They think technology equals warfare." He turned to his communications officer. "Patch me through to all Earth Defense Forces." The young officer nodded. "Channel open, sir. This is Admiral Riker. First contact scenario. Omega is in effect. All ships implement scattered defense protocol. Ground forces commence Operation Mongoose. Orbital defenses prepare for swarming tactics. Across Earth and throughout the solar system, humanity's military machine roared to life. Not with the coordinated precision the Vrakari expected, but with something far more dangerous. Adaptive. Chaos. The Vrakari High Commander, Mordrex, observed the primitive human vessels with disdain. Their propulsion systems were inefficient, their weapons primitive. His 6 golden eyes blinked in sequence as he addressed his bridge crew. "Begin pacification protocol. Target their largest population centers. Let them see resistance is futile." The Vrakari dreadnought's main cannon powered up, a violent purple glow emanating from its forward array. Mordrex expected the humans to plead for mercy or mount a futile defense. Instead, thousands of small craft launched from Earth's surface and orbital platforms. Mining ships, civilian transports, even space debris suddenly propelled by makeshift engines. "Commander," his sensor officer reported with confusion, "they appear to be sacrificing their vessels." Mordrex watched as the human crafts charged directly at his fleet. Absurd. Their primitive projectile weapons couldn't penetrate Vrakari shields. Yet they kept coming. The first wave of human ships didn't fire. They rammed. Hundreds detonated against the Vrakari shields, each explosion marginally weakening the energy barriers. Meanwhile, Earth's military vessels performed erratic, unpredictable maneuvers, firing at seemingly random intervals. "Their attack pattern is—" "There is no pattern," the tactical officer said, bewildered. "They're not following any established combat doctrine." "Irrelevant," Mordrex dismissed. "Continue primary target acquisition." As the main cannon reached full charge, Mordrex gave the order to fire. The beam lanced toward Earth, only to disperse harmlessly against an invisible barrier. "Impossible!" Mordrex hissed. "They have no shield technology." Isolde Voss smiled grimly at Riker. The Prometheus array worked, redirected their energy weapon right back into space. "Now," Riker said quietly, "they learn what humans do best, improvise." Mordrex slammed his fist against the command console. 3 standard cycles had passed since their arrival in this backwater system, and still the humans refused to submit. It defied all logic. The Vrakari's technological superiority was absolute, their ships faster, their weapons more powerful, their shields impenetrable to Earth's primitive arsenals, yet they were losing ships. "Status report," he demanded. His second-in-command, Jaxar, approached cautiously. "We've lost 2 cruisers and a support vessel, Commander. The humans have adapted their mining lasers to emit pulses that temporarily disrupt our shield harmonics." "How? Could they have discovered that vulnerability so quickly?" "They didn't," Jaxar replied. "They tried everything until something worked. Their approach is unusual. They appear to be operating independently, with minimal central coordination." Mordrex hissed in frustration. The Ricari military operated with perfect synchronization. Every ship, every soldier linked in a tactical network. It was efficient, logical, and had conquered 17 species before, but the humans fought like primitives with advanced tools. On board the UES Resilient, Riker watched the tactical display as the scattered Earth Defense Forces continued their guerrilla campaign. Traditional military doctrine had been abandoned within hours of first contact. It was useless against such technological disparity. "Commodore Narek's fleet is reporting success with the electromagnetic pulse mines," Lieutenant Mercer reported. 2 Vrikari vessels disabled. Captain Kiana Vega, Riker's second-in-command, studied the alien formations. "They're adapting their shield frequencies, but too slowly. They keep trying to form defensive patterns we immediately circumvent." "They've never faced an enemy who doesn't fight conventionally," Riker said. "They expect us to attempt to match their formations, to engage in predictable tactics." On the main view screen, a civilian asteroid mining vessel, retrofitted with military-grade explosives, detonated against a Vrikari cruiser's weakened shields. The massive alien vessel listed to one side, its hull breached. "The harvesters are in position," Vega announced, referring to the specialized boarding craft carrying Marines. Riker nodded. "Send them in. Let's see what we can learn." Captain Amira Carlo led her squad of Marines through the disabled Vrikari cruiser's corridors. The alien vessel's architecture was elegant, its systems clearly designed for maximum efficiency. But efficiency had a weakness: predictability. "All teams maintain radio silence," she whispered into her comms. "Stick to mission parameters." Carlo's team wasn't there to conquer the ship. They were there to steal. Information, technology, anything that might give humanity an edge. 20 similar teams were scattered throughout the vessel, each with different objectives. "Captain," her tech specialist Lorenz called softly, "I've accessed what appears to be a data terminal." Carlo moved to his position as he attached a quantum decryption device to the alien console. "How long?" "Working through their security now. It's sophisticated but linear. No creative safeguards, just layers of the same approach." While Lorenz worked, Carlo studied their surroundings. Everything about the Ricari ship spoke of a society that valued order above all else. No redundancies, no inefficiencies, no adaptability. "Download complete," Lorenz announced. "We've got their combat protocols, weapons specifications, and wait, we've accessed their strategic database." Carlo felt a surge of adrenaline. What does it say about us? They've classified humanity as Class 7 chaotic innovators. They've encountered species like us before, but never this unpredictable. Carlo's smile was predatory. "Pack it up. We've got what we came for." Mordrex watched in disbelief as the human boarding parties escaped his disabled vessel. Not only had they penetrated Ricari defenses, but they'd also stolen valuable intelligence. How were they able to breach our encryption? He demanded. Jaxar's voice was subdued. "It appears they used a form of quantum computing we didn't anticipate. Their technology is primitive, but applied in ways our models didn't predict." "They're savages," Mordrex exploded. "They use tactics abandoned by civilized species millennia ago. The consensus was wrong," Jaxar said quietly. "These humans, they don't think like us. They don't fight like proper warriors. They adapt." Mordrex stared at the tactical display, watching as the humans continued their chaotic, unpredictable assault. He felt something unfamiliar stir within him. It was fear. The emergency council chamber beneath Geneva was a hive of activity. World leaders, military commanders, and scientific advisors gathered around a holographic projection of the solar system, watching the ongoing space battle. Dr. Viveka Nejam, director of the Quantum Warfare Division, pointed to a cluster of red dots representing Vrikari vessels. Based on the intelligence gathered from Captain Carlo's raid, we've identified a critical weakness in their defensive systems. Their shields operate on a predictable harmonic pattern, complicated but ultimately deterministic. President Hector Okafor leaned forward. "Can we exploit this?" "We already are," Admiral Riker replied from his command chair aboard the Resilient. "But that's not our ace." "Dr. Nejam, tell them about Project Prometheus." Nejam nodded, her dark eyes intense. "For decades, we've been researching technologies based on theoretical physics. Ideas that seemed impossible but might just work. When the Vrikari arrived, we activated all of them simultaneously. She manipulated the hologram, revealing a network of orbital platforms. The Prometheus array isn't just defensive. It's the first stage of our gravitic manipulation system." Defense. Secretary Voss, who had been listening quietly, spoke up. "You mean to tell me we can actually implement the Davidson hypothesis?" "We already have," Nejam confirmed. "The first test was successful, a localized distortion of space-time that trapped the Vrikari support vessel in a temporal bubble. They're experiencing time at 1,000th our rate." The room fell silent as the implications sank in. Riker's voice broke the tension. "We've been preparing for this moment since the Roswell incident in 1947. We knew they were out there, and we knew they might not be friendly." In the debris field of what had once been Mars's outer moon Deimos, Commander Tarek Nassar waited with his stealth fleet. 50 vessels, each equipped with experimental technology, hidden in plain sight among the rocky fragments. "Vrikari battle group approaching," his sensor officer reported. 5 vessels, standard search pattern. Nassar nodded. "All ships, initiate quantum field generators. Engage only on my mark." The human vessels disappeared from conventional sensors, their existence masked by technology that bent probability itself. The approaching Vrikari ships were searching for asteroids that had been weaponized. They had no idea they were flying into an ambush. "Quantum torpedoes armed," his weapons officer confirmed. "Phase variants set to match their shield harmonics." NASA waited until the alien vessels were surrounded. "Fire." 50 quantum torpedoes materialized simultaneously within the Vrikari formation, bypassing shields entirely. The explosions were spectacular, not from conventional force, but from the implosion of stabilized micro-singularities that had been the theoretical work of physicists for generations. "Direct hits on all targets," the weapons officer reported, her voice steady despite the enormity of what they'd just accomplished. Vrikari vessels neutralized. Nassar allowed himself a moment of satisfaction before sending the coded message. "Neptune's Trident successful. Phase 2 commencing." On the Vrikari command ship, Mordrex received the news of the lost battle group with stunned disbelief. "How?" he demanded. "How could their weapons penetrate our shields?" Jaxar couldn't meet his commander's gaze. "Unknown, sir. Our sensors detected nothing until the explosions." "They're primitives," Mordrex roared. "Their most advanced vessels use fusion propulsion. They don't even have unified field theory." "Perhaps," a new voice said, "that is what they wanted us to believe." Supreme Strategist Vormak had arrived from the consensus homeworld, his ancient form floating in a gravity pod. The strategist had lived through 3,000 cycles and seen the rise and fall of countless species. "Explain," Mordrex demanded. "We've Been analyzing their information networks, Vormak said. Their entertainment media, what they call science fiction, contains thousands of scenarios involving alien invasion. They have been psychologically preparing for this moment for generations. Mordrex scoffed. Fiction is not military preparation, isn't it? Vormak countered. Humans use fiction to explore possibilities, to imagine solutions to problems they haven't yet encountered. They turned their creative speculation into research directions. While we were perfecting established technologies, they were exploring theoretical concepts we dismissed as inefficient. Jaxar's console beeped urgently. Commander, we're detecting a massive energy buildup in Earth's orbit. The entire Prometheus array is activating simultaneously. For the first time in his long career, Mordrex felt genuine dread. What are they doing? Something, Vormak said softly, that we never considered possible. The Prometheus array, a constellation of satellites encircling Earth, began to pulse. With azure energy, streams of quantum particles connected each node, forming a latticework of light, visible even from the surface. In orbit, Admiral Riker watched as humanity's greatest scientific achievement activated at full capacity for the first time. All array nodes synchronized, Lieutenant Mercer reported. Quantum field stability at 97% and holding. Riker nodded grimly. Initiate the Davidson Cascade. Across the solar system, additional arrays hidden in the asteroid belt, on Europa, and in the clouds of Venus activated in sequence. The quantum network expanded, creating a web of entangled particles that spanned from Mercury to Jupiter. What are we looking at? Captain Vega asked, watching the tactical display with a mixture of awe and apprehension. The culmination of 80 years of quantum research, Riker explained. A synthetic dimensional boundary. Essentially, we're creating a localized region where the laws of physics can be selectively modified. Vega's eyes widened. That's impossible. Theoretically, yes. Practically. Riker gestured to the viewport, where space itself was beginning to ripple like water. We've had this technology for decades, but never deployed it because of the risks. The Vrikari left us no choice. In the command center beneath Geneva, Dr. Najim monitored the array's performance. With intense concentration, beside her, President Okafor and the Security Council watched anxiously. Davidson Cascade approaching criticality, she announced. Preparing to initiate the dimensional fold. Defense Secretary Voss leaned close to the president. Are we certain this is the right course? The theoretical models suggest there could be side effects. We're out of options, Okafor replied. The Vrikari reinforcements will arrive within hours. We either demonstrate our capability now or face extinction. Najim's fingers danced across her console. Commencing final sequence. Dimensional. Fold in 3, 2, 1. The holographic display showed a shimmering distortion expanding from the array, engulfing the Vrikari fleet. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then the alien vessels began to distort, as if viewed through rippling water. What are we seeing? Okafor demanded. The localized alteration of physical constants, Najim explained. Within the field, the speed of light is temporarily reduced by a factor of 1,000, while molecular bonds are weakened by a similar factor. In horrified fascination, they watched as the Vrikari ships began to dissolve, their hulls unable to maintain structural integrity under the altered laws of physics. On the Vrikari command ship, systems failed catastrophically, as reality itself seemed to warp around them. Mordrex clung to his command chair, watching helplessly as bulkheads melted and control systems liquefied. "Emergency hyperspace jump," he ordered, his voice barely audible over the alarms. "Drive offline," Jaxar reported, his usual composure shattered. "Commander, what is happening?" Supreme Strategist Vormak's gravity pod sparked and failed, dropping the ancient alien to the deck. Despite his obvious pain, his eyes showed not fear, but understanding. "They have accomplished what the consensus deemed impossible," he wheezed. "They've weaponized space-time itself." Mordrex stared at the tactical display, watching as his fleet disintegrated. How could primitives achieve this? "Because," Vormak said, "we fundamentally misunderstood their nature. The Vrikari advanced through logical progression, each technology building upon established principles. Humans. Imagine, then create. The ship's structural integrity failed further, a massive breach opening in the command deck. Emergency fields contained the atmosphere, but they wouldn't last long. "All vessels," Mordrex broadcast on the fleet channel, "retreat to minimum safe distance. Abandon the invasion corridor." Commander Nassar's stealth fleet regrouped at the edge of the dimensional distortion, observing the Vrikari retreat. "They're running," his executive officer said incredulously. "They're actually running." Nassar remained cautious. "Maintain battle stations. This isn't over." "Sir," his communications officer interrupted, "we're receiving a direct transmission from the Vrikari command ship, addressed specifically to Admiral Riker." Nassar frowned. "Relay it to the Resilient and prepare quantum torpedoes. This could be a distraction." Aboard the Resilient, Riker received the Vrikari transmission. Mordrex's alien features filled the screen. His golden eyes dimmed with what might have been respect. "Admiral," the alien commander said, his translator struggling with the emotion in his voice, "I request a temporary cessation of hostilities to discuss terms." Riker's expression remained impassive. "You came to exterminate us. Why should we negotiate now?" "Because," Mordrex replied, "we have gravely miscalculated the Davidson Cascade. It should not be possible. No civilization at your development stage has ever conceived such technology, let alone deployed it." "Then perhaps," Riker said coldly, "you should reconsider your assumptions about human capability." Mordrex's alien features contorted in what might have been reluctant agreement. Indeed, the consensus must be informed of this development. 3 days after the Davidson Cascade, representatives from Earth and the Vrikari consensus gathered aboard the neutral station Harmony, a repurposed asteroid in Jupiter's orbit. The contrast between the delegates couldn't have been more stark. The Vrikari, with their elongated bodies and multiple golden eyes, moved with precise uniform motions. The human delegation, diverse in appearance and demeanor, displayed a range of emotions and behaviors that clearly unsettled their alien counterparts. Admiral Riker led the human contingent, accompanied by Dr. Nejem, Defense Secretary Voss, and Ambassador Orion Malik, a veteran diplomat who had cut his teeth negotiating peace between fractious Earth nations. Opposite them sat Supreme Strategist Vormak, Commander Mordrex, and 3 consensus arbiters whose names were unpronounceable to human tongues. "We are prepared to discuss cessation of hostilities," Vormak began, his translator rendering his clicks and whistles into stilted English. "The consensus acknowledges that the extinction protocol was premature." Ambassador Malik raised an eyebrow. "Premature? You attempted to exterminate our species." "A regrettable miscalculation," Vormak admitted. "Our assessment classified humans as a Class 7 chaotic innovator species, unpredictable, potentially dangerous, but technologically limited." Dr. Nejem leaned forward. "And now, Mordrex interjected, "we understand that your technological development has followed a different trajectory than any species we have encountered. Your Davidson Cascade technology alone suggests a theoretical framework beyond our current understanding." Riker's expression remained cold. "Let's be clear. You attacked us because you thought we were weak. You're negotiating now because you discovered we're not." Vormak's multiple eyes blinked in sequence, a sign of discomfort. The consensus has encountered 17 spacefaring species. 16 submitted to our guidance. 1 resisted and was pacified. None have demonstrated your adaptability. You mean our willingness to fight dirty, Voss said bluntly. We prefer logical, predictable warfare, Mordrex acknowledged. Your tactics were disordered, chaotic. Effective, Riker corrected. Vormak made a gesture that his translator rendered as conciliatory. Indeed, the consensus must re-evaluate its approaches, but there is another matter we must address, the Davidson Cascade technology. Ambassador Malik's expression hardened. That's not on the table. You must understand, Vormak insisted, such technology threatens the stability of space-time itself. No single species should wield such power. Dr. Najim laughed, the sound sharp in the tense atmosphere. That's rich, coming from the civilization that just attempted genocide. What my colleague means, Ambassador Malik said diplomatically, is that Earth will maintain its defensive capabilities as a deterrent against future aggression from any source. The negotiations continued for hours, both sides probing for weakness, seeking advantage. The Vrakari, accustomed to dictating terms from a position of technological superiority, found themselves facing humans who negotiated with the same unpredictability they brought to warfare. In orbit around Saturn, Fleet Commander Isel Thorson supervised the installation of a new Prometheus array node, watching as technicians in zero-gravity suits aligned the quantum accelerators. Commander, her executive officer reported, long-range sensors are detecting anomalies at the edge of the system. Multiple gravitational distortions consistent with large-scale hyperspace transitions. Thorson frowned. The Vrakari reinforcements. Negative. The signature doesn't match Vrakari technology. This is something else. Thorson studied the sensor data, her experienced eyes catching patterns that others might miss. Alert Admiral Riker immediately, and activate all defensive systems. I want the full planetary shield grid online within the hour. You think they're hostile? Thorson's gaze remained fixed on the readings. The universe just learned that humanity isn't the primitive species everyone assumed. I expect we'll be getting a lot of attention. Back at the negotiations, a junior officer interrupted with a datapad for Admiral Riker. His expression darkened as he read the information. Problem, Admiral? Vormak inquired, his translator failing to mask the note of hope in his voice. Riker passed the datapad to Ambassador Malik. It seems we have another situation developing. Multiple unknown vessels approaching from the galactic core. Mordrex and Vormak exchanged glances. The hegemony, Mordrex said, his translator struggling with what might have been alarm. They monitor all significant conflict in this sector. And who exactly, Voss asked coldly, are the hegemony? A collective of elder species, Vormak explained. They enforce certain restrictions on interstellar development. The use of dimensional manipulation technology would certainly attract their attention. Ambassador Malik's diplomatic mask slipped. Are you saying there's an even bigger threat than you out there? The hegemony do not invade, Vormak clarified. They sterilize entire systems rendered uninhabitable. They consider certain technologies too dangerous to exist. Like the Davidson Cascade, Riker concluded. Precisely. Riker stood abruptly. This negotiation is over. We need to prepare. Vormak's gravity pod hummed as he rose to meet Riker's gaze. Admiral, the hegemony possessed technology beyond even the consensus. Your Davidson Cascade would be useless against them. Maybe, Riker acknowledged, but they've never faced humans before. As the human delegation prepared to depart, Mordrex approached Riker privately. Admiral, there is something you should know. The hegemony. They have encountered species like yours before. Creative, adaptable, unpredictable. They fear such species above all others. Good, Riker said simply. You don't understand, Mordrex insisted. They exterminate such species preemptively. The consensus sought to pacify Earth. The hegemony will obliterate it down to the molecular level. For the first time, Riker smiled. Commander Mordrex, there's an old human saying, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. Perhaps it's time the Vrikari consensus decided where they stand. Mordrex's golden eyes widened slightly. You are proposing an alliance against the hegemony? I'm proposing survival, Riker corrected. Yours and ours. The hegemony arrived with a display of overwhelming power, 30 colossal vessels materializing simultaneously around the solar system, each larger than Earth's moon. Their design defied conventional physics, appearing both solid and fluid, their surfaces rippling with colors that human eyes couldn't properly perceive. In Earth's unified command center, military leaders and civilian authorities watched in stunned silence as the alien armada took position. They've surrounded every planet in the system, Fleet Commander Thorson reported, and they've deployed some kind of field that's preventing hyperspace jumps. We're contained. Admiral Riker studied the tactical display, his expression grim. Dr. Najem, can we deploy the Davidson Cascade against this many targets? The physicist shook her head. The array was designed for localized effects. Attempting to cover this much volume would destabilize the quantum field. We'd tear the system apart. President Okafor turned to the Vrikari representatives. You've encountered these beings before. What do they want? Supreme Strategist Vormak floated forward in his gravity pod. The hegemony enforces developmental restrictions across this galactic sector. They believe certain technologies, like your Davidson Cascade, represent existential threats to cosmic stability. So they're here to destroy us, Secretary Voss concluded. To sterilize your system, Vormak corrected. They will erase all traces of intelligent life, leaving only the bare planets. Captain Vega studied the sensor readings. Their technology, it's beyond anything we've seen, even beyond the Vrikari. The hegemony emerged billions of years ago, Vormak explained. They consider themselves the guardians of cosmic order. The main communication system activated, displaying a being so alien that human minds struggled to comprehend its form, constantly shifting patterns of light and energy, vaguely reminiscent of a cephalopod, but with dimensions that seemed to extend beyond normal space. Inhabitants of Sul, the entity spoke, its voice resonating directly in their minds rather than through the speakers. We are the hegemony. We have observed your deployment of prohibited dimensional manipulation technology. Your system has been designated for purification. President Okafor stepped forward. We are a sovereign species. We have the right to defend ourselves. Rights, the entity responded with something like amusement, are constructs of limited beings. The cosmos has laws that supersede your concepts of sovereignty. Your species has demonstrated the capacity for dimensional manipulation, a technology that, unchecked, threatens the stability of this galactic sector. We only used it defensively, Riker argued, against an unprovoked attack. Intent is irrelevant. Capability is determinative. The entity's form pulsed. Purification will commence in one local planetary rotation. You may use this time for your cultural rituals of closure. The communication ended, leaving the command center in silence. Well, Secretary Voss said grimly, at least they're giving us time to say goodbye. No, Riker said firmly. They're giving us time to prepare. Commander Mordrex, who had been observing silently, stepped forward. Admiral, you cannot hope to defeat the hegemony conventionally. Their technology is beyond both our civilizations. Who said anything about conventional? Riker turned to Dr. Najem. The Davidson hypothesis had a second component, one we never implemented because of the risks. Najem's eyes widened. The consciousness transfer matrix? Admiral, that's purely theoretical. We've never even tested it. Now seems like an appropriate time, Riker said. Can it be done? Najem hesitated. Theoretically, yes. But the implications are better than extinction, Riker finished. He turned to the Vrikari. You said the hegemony fears species like ours. Creative, adaptable, unpredictable. Let's show them why. As the hegemony deadline approached, frantic activity consumed Earth and its colonies. Not evacuation, there was nowhere to go, but preparation for what Riker had come to call Operation Transcendence. In the quantum laboratory beneath Geneva, Dr. Najem made final adjustments to a device that, until yesterday, had existed only in theoretical papers. The consciousness transfer matrix is online, she reported to Riker. But, Admiral, I must emphasize the experimental nature of this technology. We're attempting to upload the collective consciousness of humanity into a quantum substrate. And then download it into the hegemony systems, Riker added. I understand the risks. It's not just risks, Najem insisted. We're talking about fundamentally altering what it means to be human. We're talking about survival, Riker countered. The hegemony wants to destroy us because they fear how we think. Let's use that against them. President Okafor joined them, looking exhausted but resolute. The planetary vote is complete. 87% of Earth's population has consented to the procedure. And the Vrikari? Riker asked. Commander Mordrex has convinced the consensus to join us, Okafor confirmed. They've realized that after Earth, they would be next. Najem checked the final calculations. The Prometheus array will serve as the transmission network. When the hegemony initiates their attack, the dimensional fold will create a quantum tunnel directly into their systems. And then? Okafor asked. And then, Riker said quietly, we show them exactly why they should fear us. The hegemony attack began precisely on schedule. Energy beams of impossible power lanced from their vessels toward Earth and its colonies. But instead of destruction, they encountered the fully activated Prometheus array, now amplified by Vrikari technology. The dimensional fold opened, not to alter physics this time, but to create a bridge between consciousnesses. Aboard the hegemony command vessel, the elder beings experienced something unprecedented in their billions of years of existence, the direct intrusion of human and Vrikari minds into their collective consciousness. Billions of individual perspectives, each unique, each creative, each adaptable, flooded into the rigidly ordered hegemony group mind. Where the ancient entities had known only certainty and immutable laws, they suddenly experienced doubt, creativity, flexibility, the very chaos they had sought to eliminate. The human capacity for imagination, for seeing beyond established patterns, for questioning authority, qualities that had made Earth's defense so unpredictable, now infected the hegemony itself. Commander Mordrex, his consciousness joined with Riker's in the quantum stream, perceived the fundamental truth. They fear us because they cannot comprehend us, and what they cannot comprehend, they cannot control. The hegemony vessels froze in space as their operators struggled with concepts alien to their ancient minds. The human capacity to embrace uncertainty, to find strength in diversity rather than uniformity, to create rather than merely preserve. Riker, his consciousness expanded beyond human limitations within the quantum field, understood at last. This was never about technology. It was about potential. They've been stagnant for billions of years, and they recognized in us the capacity to become something more than they are. The hegemony's attack faltered, then ceased entirely. Their vessels began to withdraw, not in tactical retreat, but in fundamental reconsideration. In the quantum stream connecting human, Vrikari, and hegemony consciousness, understanding flowed both ways. The elder race experienced the vibrant chaos of human thought, while humanity glimpsed the cosmic perspective of beings who had witnessed the birth and death of stars. And in that connection, a new possibility emerged: not conquest, not extermination, but coexistence. Not uniform order, but dynamic balance. The consciousness transfer reversed, returning human and Vakari minds to their physical forms. But the connection remained, a quantum link between species that had nearly destroyed each other and the ancient guardians who had sought to eliminate them both. When the hegemony spoke again, their message was different. For 10 billion years, we have enforced order. Today, we encountered something beyond our understanding, minds that thrive in chaos rather than fearing it. We withdraw our judgment. The prohibition is lifted. As the massive hegemony vessels departed, Admiral Riker stood with Commander Mordrex on the observation deck of the Resilient, watching Earth rotate peacefully below. "They will return," Mordrex said, "not as conquerors, but as students. You have shown them a new path." Riker nodded. "And perhaps they've shown us one as well. The galaxy is larger and stranger than we imagined. The consensus believed order was the highest value," Mordrex admitted. "Earth has demonstrated that adaptation is stronger than perfection. That's why attacking Earth means doom," Riker finished. "Not because of our weapons, but because of our nature. We absorb, adapt, and overcome. Every challenge makes us stronger." Across the solar system, humanity began to rebuild. The Prometheus array, once a weapon of last resort, became the foundation of a new interstellar network, linking Earth, the Vakari consensus, and even tentative connections to the hegemony itself. Dr. Najam found herself heading a new interspecies research initiative, exploring the implications of the consciousness transfer technology that had saved them all. "The real victory," she explained to a gathering of human and Vakari scientists, "wasn't technological, it was philosophical. We demonstrated that diversity of thought isn't a weakness to be purged, but the greatest strength a species can possess." In the decades that followed, other alien civilizations made contact with Earth, some seeking alliance, others testing humanity's resolve. But the word had spread throughout the galactic community. Earth was not to be underestimated. The humans didn't have the most advanced technology, the largest fleet, or the longest history. What they had was infinitely more valuable: the ability to imagine possibilities that other species couldn't conceive, to adapt to challenges that would destroy more rigid civilizations, and to transform potential enemies into allies through sheer, stubborn creativity. Admiral Riker, long since retired, stood on the observation deck of Harmony Station, now expanded into a massive interspecies diplomatic hub orbiting Jupiter. Beside him floated Supreme Strategist Vormak, who had become something of a friend over the years. The hegemony reports that 17 new species have developed dimensional manipulation technology since the prohibition was lifted, Vormak said. "The galaxy changes rapidly now." "Change is what we do best," Riker replied with a smile. "Indeed." Vormak's ancient eyes studied the stars. "The consensus still struggles with your chaotic methods, but we cannot argue with the results. In attempting to exterminate humanity, we nearly destroyed ourselves. In choosing to ally with you, we have flourished beyond our predictions." Below them, Earth shone blue and serene, now the center of a growing interstellar community, united not by conquest or fear, but by the very diversity of thought that the Vakari and hegemony had once sought to eliminate. "There's an old human saying," Riker said, watching as a Vakari educational vessel approached Earth, carrying students eager to learn the human approach to innovation. "The most dangerous animal isn't the strongest or fastest. It's the one that can adapt." The Vakari "Have a similar saying now," Vormak replied, with what might have been humor. It translates roughly as, "If you value your civilization, don't attack Earth." Together, they watched as humanity continued its unrelenting expansion into the cosmos, not as conquerors, but as innovators, bringing creative chaos to a galaxy that had known only rigid order for too long. Throughout the vast reaches of space, the message spread from species to species, a warning and a revelation. Those who sought to destroy humanity inevitably faced their own destruction, not through superior firepower, but through humanity's unparalleled ability to reimagine the very rules of engagement. Aliens had finally understood why attacking Earth meant doom, and in that understanding, the galaxy itself was transformed.